Audra Clinic of Love. The fluorescent lights of Sacred Heart Hospital flickered at 2:47 a.m. when Maya first saw him being wheeled through the emergency doors. His body broken, his future uncertain, blood stained the white sheets beneath him, and the paramedics shouted medical jargon that Maya had heard 1,000 times before. But something about this moment felt different. She had been a nurse for 7 years, had seen countless patients come through those doors, had learned to build walls around her heart to survive the weight of human suffering. Yet when her eyes met his for that brief second before he lost consciousness, something inside her shifted, like tectonic plates rearranging the landscape of her carefully constructed, emotional distance. His name was Arjun, and the accident had stolen almost everything from him. A drunk driver had run a red light, and in the span of 3 seconds, Arjun's life as a promising architect had shattered like the windshield of his car. Multiple fractures, internal injuries, and a spinal trauma that left the doctors whispering in hushed tones about paralysis and wheelchairs, and a future that looked nothing like the one he had planned. Maya was assigned to his care, and she approached his room that first morning with the same professional composure she brought to every patient, determined to be efficient, compassionate but detached, helpful but not involved. She had no way of knowing that this man would become the earthquake that would crack open every wall she had ever built. The first few weeks were brutal. Arjun oscillated between rage and despair, his eyes holding a darkness that Maya recognized from her own mirror during the hardest years of her life. He barely spoke, turning his face away when she entered the room, refusing physical therapy, rejecting meals, existing in a prison of pain and lost dreams. Maya had seen this before, the way trauma could hollow a person out, leaving only a shell where vibrant life once lived. But where other nurses might have simply completed their tasks and moved on, Maya found herself lingering. She would adjust his pillows with extra care, speak to him in soft tones even when he refused to respond, share small observations about the world outside his window where spring was slowly painting the trees in shades of hope he could not yet feel. One rainy Thursday afternoon, 3 weeks into his stay, something broke open between them. Maya was changing his IV when Arjun suddenly spoke, his voice rough from disuse, asking her why she bothered being kind to someone who was so thoroughly broken. The question hung in the air between them, heavy with the weight of his despair, and Maya felt her carefully maintained professional distance crumble. She pulled a chair close to his bed and told him something she had never told any patient before. She spoke about her younger brother, about the motorcycle accident that had taken him when Maya was just 23, about the guilt she carried for months because she had been angry with him that last morning over something so trivial she could barely remember it now, about how nursing became her way of honoring his memory by saving lives she could not save his. Her voice cracked as she spoke, and when she finished, there were tears on both their faces, and the wall between nurse and patient had dissolved into something far more complex and terrifying and real. After that day, everything changed. Arjun began to fight, not because the doctors encouraged him or because therapy schedules demanded it, but because Maya believed he could. She worked double shifts to be there during his physical therapy sessions, holding his hand through the excruciating pain, celebrating every tiny victory like it was a miracle. When he managed to move his toes for the first time, Maya cried harder than he did. When he took his first agonizing steps with a walker, she stood beside him with such fierce pride that the other nurses smiled and shook their heads because they could see what was happening even before Maya and Arjun were ready to name it. Love was growing in the spaces between medical procedures and midnight conversations, in the way Maya's heartbeat quickened when she entered his room, in the way Arjun's eyes searched for her face in every crowd of medical staff, in the terrifying realization that what they were feeling went far beyond the bounds of professional care. But loving Arjun meant confronting every fear Maya had spent years avoiding. She had built her entire adult life around control and emotional safety, choosing work over relationships, competence over vulnerability, solitude over the messy unpredictability of love. Arjun represented everything she had taught herself to avoid. Uncertainty, risk, the possibility of devastating loss. And for Arjun, accepting Maya's love meant allowing someone to see him at his most vulnerable, broken and relearning basic functions, dependent on others in ways that challenged everything his independent spirit had once taken for granted. His pride screamed at him to push her away, to not burden someone as vibrant and whole as Maya with the complications of his damaged body and uncertain future. The tension between what they felt and what they feared created an exquisite kind of torture, a dance of almost confessions, and pulled back. Touches and loaded silences that everyone around them could feel, but neither seemed able to break. The breakthrough came during a setback that threatened to destroy all of Arjun's progress. An infection delayed his discharge and sent him spiraling back into despair. And on a particularly dark night when pain, medication could not touch the deeper ache in his soul, he told Maya to stop wasting her time on him, to go live her life with someone whole and uncomplicated, to forget about a broken man who might never be more than a burden. His words were meant to drive her away, to protect her from the weight of his reality, but they had the opposite effect. Maya sat on the edge of his hospital bed, breaking every protocol in the book, and took his face in her hands with a tenderness that made his breath catch. She told him that love was not about finding someone perfect or uncomplicated, that the deepest connections were forged not in moments of strength, but in the vulnerable spaces where we allow others to see our fractures and choose to stay anyway. She told him that watching him fight had made her braver, that his courage in facing each day had inspired her to stop hiding from her own fears, that she did not want simple or safe or easy because what she wanted was him, exactly as he was, broken places and all. The kiss that followed was soft and salt-tinged with tears, a sacred moment in the sterile hospital room where fluorescent lights had witnessed so much suffering, but perhaps never such profound healing. They both knew the complications that lay ahead, the hospital ethics board, the potential consequences for Maya's career, the judgments of colleagues who would question whether her feelings were real or some misplaced savior complex, the practical challenges of building a relationship under such extraordinary circumstances. But in that moment, none of it mattered more than the truth beating between them, the recognition that some connections transcend logic and professional boundaries and careful plans, that sometimes love finds us in the most unexpected places and asks us to be brave enough to choose it anyway. If this story has touched your heart, if you have felt the power of love that breaks through barriers and heals wounds deeper than any medicine can reach, I ask you from the depths of my heart to please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to this channel. Your support helps these stories reach people who need reminding that love can find us even in our darkest hours, that vulnerability is not weakness but the birthplace of our deepest connections. Every like, every share, every subscription is your way of spreading this message of hope to someone who might be struggling, someone who might have forgotten that their broken places do not disqualify them from being loved. The months that followed were not easy, but they were real in ways that changed both Maya and Arjun forever. Maya eventually transferred to a different department to avoid conflict of interest, and Arjun continued his grueling rehabilitation with a determination fueled not just by his own will but by the promise of a future with someone who had chosen to see past his injuries to the man he was becoming. They learned together that healing is not about returning to who we were before, but about integrating our experiences into a new wholeness. That love is not about finding someone to complete us, but about finding someone brave enough to grow alongside us through the complications and setbacks and unexpected beauty of an imperfect life. Maya had entered nursing to save lives, but Arjun had saved something in her too, the part that had stopped believing she deserved the kind of love that sees you fully and chooses you anyway. Please take a moment to comment below and share your thoughts on this story, or tell us about a time when love found you in an unexpected place. A year after that rainy Thursday conversation, Arjun walked without assistance into the hospital cafeteria where Maya was having lunch, carrying a single sunflower because he had remembered her mentioning once that they were her favorite, and in front of a room full of staff who had witnessed their entire journey. He got down on one knee with a grace that spoke of how far he had come and asked her to marry him. The applause that erupted was not just celebration of an engagement, but recognition of something miraculous, that the clinic where Maya had learned to guard her heart had become the place where she learned to open it, that the hospital that had witnessed Arjun's brokenness had also witnessed his rebirth, that sometimes the places we associate with pain and loss can also become sacred ground where love performs its quiet miracles. Maya said yes through tears of joy, and in that moment, surrounded by the colleagues who had watched their love story unfold, against every odd and protocol, they both understood that the accident that had brought Arjun to Sacred Heart Hospital had not just stolen his old life but had given them both something infinitely more precious, a love forged in fire, tested by adversity, and strong enough to hold space for all the beautiful imperfection of being human together.